for you got them mostly memorized. Today we'll be discussing the fourth principle, which says, without religion, the government of a free people cannot be maintained. We talked in our second principle about the necessity for a people to stay virtuous and moral in order to stay free as a republic. In our third principle, we talked about the necessity, or we talked about the best method of ensuring a virtuous and morally stable people. And you remember, we discussed the fact that the founders felt like the best way to do that was to elect virtuous leaders. And now we're going to discuss the founders' thoughts on the role of religion in America. In order to do that, we'll begin by discussing a document that was actually adopted in 1787, the very year the Constitution was written. And this was the Northwest Ordinance of 1787. The Northwest Ordinance was actually written in order to give some direction concerning the development of the Northwest Territory, which then was the area including the Ohio Valley, out of which eventually several states were carved. But in the Northwest Ordinance, it describes very clearly in Article 3 the fact that three things should be taught in the schools. And here they are: religion, morality, and knowledge. In that order, actually, is the way they're given in Article 3. Religion, morality, and knowledge. How do you like that? Well, what's the first question that has to be asked when somebody says, teach religion in the public schools? First question, what would it be? That's correct. Whose religion? Which religion are we to teach if we're supposed to teach the religion in the schools? And in order to answer that question, let's go to page 76, down at the bottom, because this is an interesting position of George Washington. Have you ever heard somebody say, I can be a moral person without religion? So you hear that nowadays, don't you? And everybody agrees you have to be a moral person to live in a free society and to maintain freedom. But they differ on how to really be a moral person. And so you've heard some people say, I don't have to belong to a church or be a part of any religion. I can just be a moral person. And of course, my question to them is, whose morality are you following? Listen to George Washington as he addresses that very question. He says in the bottom of 76, this is in his farewell address where he's giving counsel as he has gleaned all this experience throughout all of his life, and he's giving some pretty powerful counsel, and one of them was this. He says, of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. And let us with caution, here it is, indulge the supposition that morality can be maintained without religion. Do you hear that caution there? Reason and experience both forbid us to expect that national morality can prevail to the exclusion of religious principle. And there you have Washington saying it. Don't fool yourself. You cannot really have morality without religion. And why would that be so? Why would he say that? Because there's no standard if you just have your own morality. Whose standard is that? I heard somebody just the other day. Actually, it was a political office holder who said a person can be somewhat dishonest at times and still be a moral person. See, Washington would disagree with that. It's religion that helps people develop a system of morality, something to cling to. Go over to page 77 now as we continue when we say, which religion? And this is Jefferson on page 77 who expressed the feeling of the founders when he said, no religious reading, instruction, or exercise shall be prescribed or practiced inconsistent with the tenets of any religious sect or denomination. In other words, all religion that you teach in the schools has to be what? It has to cut across all religion. Isn't that interesting? It has to be, what should we say, a common denominator of all denominations and religions. Whoa. And in other words, it can't be sectarian. And in many laws, including in our own state, it reads that no sectarian doctrine shall be taught in a public school. And that's okay. See, that's in agreement with the founders. Meaning one particular doctrine of one particular church. You don't do that. But you do teach religious principle, which cuts across all religions. And of course, the first question is, well, what is that called? And the founders had phrases that they used. One of them said, teach the universal religion. Another one said, the religion of all mankind. Another one said, the religion of America. And you say, what are these things? Well, Benjamin Franklin helped us to know this on the bottom of 77. Here's a great quote from Franklin where he kind of encapsulated what is really meant by the religion of America, the universal religion, the religion of all mankind. And he said this, bottom of 77, here is my creed. I believe in one God, the creator of the universe, that He governs it by His providence, that He ought to be worshipped, that the most acceptable service we render to Him is in doing good to His other children, that the soul of man is immortal and will be treated with justice in another life, respecting its conduct in this. These I take to be the fundamental points in all sound religion. You get that? So let's review some of those things that he points out. The 5 points of all sound religion. First of all, that there is a creator. Notice he doesn't identify any farther than that. There is a creator. Secondly, that He has revealed a moral code to help us know what's right and what's wrong. Third, He holds mankind responsible for the way we treat each other. Fourth, we live beyond this life. There is a next life. And number 5, we will be judged there for what we have done in this life. And Franklin says those are points of all sound religion. And as you go through and try to identify different, different Christian denominations, do they believe in all these things? And you have to say yes. And then you can get a little more difficult. Other than Christianity, do Jewish people believe in these things? Yes. In a little different way sometimes. How about Muslim? Oh yes, all these things. Now let's get a little more difficult. How about some of the Oriental religions? Yes. In their search for light in a little different way, but you can find these elements in all sound religions. Anyway, this is the thought of the founders. If you want to stay free, you have to stay moral. And the moral basis comes from having and teaching to the next generation religious principles that we can all agree on. And these are them. I want you to turn to page 80 and let's talk